I feel like I have to really think about it to sing in an Australian accent.
Why do some Australian artists sing with American accents?
I'm the man now.
Due to the meteoric rise of streaming services and algorithms, some Aussie artists are struggling to get a sniff at the charts. So I'm keen to find out, do you need to sound or sing like international acts to find success? Just look at Australia's top streamed artists, Vance Joy, Kid Laroi, Rufus Du Sol and Troye Sivan, and international audiences would be forgiven for thinking that they weren't Australian. I'm chatting with Mitch from Seaforth. He's an Australian artist who's amassed around 500,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, but he sings in an American accent.
My first artist and first ever person that inspired me to start songwriting and getting into it was Missy Higgins. And she's got the most Australian accent when she sings ever.
And doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that hit so close to home?
I was singing in a seriously Australian accent when I first started. And I remember doing my first competition. One of the judges was like, you can't copy Missy Higgins' voice so much. Like, it's a little too Aussie. Like, you gotta find a middle ground. And I didn't know what that meant. I'm just singing her song how she sang it. So learning about other music and listening to other artists, I feel like my voice just started changing and blending. But initially it was like real Aussie. This song called Good Beer. Ain't much for the cocktail crowd.
I've been there and I got kicked out.
I ain't got no stock in Tesla.
Just these 6 drinks to impress you, yeah.
There's a whole lot that I don't, but I know what. Wow.
I reckon you should release this song as well as an Aussie version, because that's I feel like the point of this video was that it would sound so different that it almost sounded bad, but that sounded really good.
I've noticed as well is what happens is the rhymes, you lose the rhymes in certain words that in an American accent would rhyme with the next one, you can make it rhyme. In the Australian accent, you lose the rhyme. It's almost like a different section of the brain when I start singing, like a different muscle memory of this is how words sound when I sing. This is how words sound when I talk.
Australian accents are very known for having diphthongs. One syllable, you're pronouncing 2 vowels. So the way we say mate, Americans hear that as might because they're not used to hearing the mate.
Oh, can I be Australian, mate?
Whereas Americans be like mate. It's kind of like one, and Australians, you got that slide. Basically your tongue is moving while you're pronouncing that one syllable. And that's can be a hindrance while you're singing. So it's easier to do an American vowel instead of an Australian vowel to be able to actually get to the note and not have your tongue move.
An Australian accent would actually stand out more than anything in this market.
It's more difficult for new artists to get money. The global consolidation of industry has meant that whilst it used to be the case that you can make a living as an artist, as an Australian artist in Australia, and you have artists like Hilltop Hoods, I guess, or Powderfinger, would make very good livings as Australian artists who sold most of their recordings in Australia. Now it's deemed that there isn't enough money in the Australian market and you've got to have 2 other markets as well as Australia. So that increases the pressure for you to be able to succeed in other markets and not get locked in to an Australian context. So there is a debate about whether if you become a Triple J favourite, that is really great for you in Australia, but it might actually lock you out of other markets because then you're just seen as an Australian artist.
But Tim said some Aussie artists are using the accent to their advantage. It's a breath of fresh air in a saturated market.
Now, in actual fact, it's not always the case because the artists that are doing well, like Amyl and the Sniffers, like Kim Gizzard, like Tame Impala, have an Australianness about them that has actually served them well in an international context.
Well, here we go. Australian versions for every song from now on too.